What is up? Welcome to another edition of the NFL Fantasy Football Podcast. It's me, your man, MG Marcas Grant, alongside the Fantasy Hall of Famer Michael Fabiano and the Fantasy Viper Graham Barfield. Well, we're paring down now. I mean, this is it, right?
I know.
This is the final leg of the race here.
Pretty much.
We're going down the final stretch.
Because Week 17 doesn't count. Don't play Week 17, people.
Yeah.
Don't do that.
Friends don't let friends play on Week 17.
Seriously, don't do that.
Yeah. Imagine if you have Lamar Jackson and he gets you all the way to Week 17 and then he's not going to play Week 17. It's like,
Right.
Yeah, you can only...
Way back when, Week 16 used to be a problem with that. I remember there were times when, like, the Colts would clinch everything, and then, they'd bring in their backup, and Peyton Manning would sit, and it was a Week 16 issue. Now, because of the way that the NFL has scheduled games, there's so many, like, big games in Week 16 because a lot of them are divisional rivalry games, like Cowboys-Eagles, that you have to sort of play your guys.
Right. This is why you should never play season long and up until Week 17, just because, I mean, there are going to be potentially 6 to 8 teams in Week 17 that are just going to be resting everybody.
Right.
And then maybe another few more that will be resting starters for various reasons, either because they're dead in the playoffs or they're, trying to find a wild card spot.
I think teams have stopped. Because I do remember when, teams, especially if you had a big lead, if you had everything locked up, you would sit guys in Week 16 and 17. And I think what happened is you'd have, players would sit Week 16, Week 17, then you'd have a bye. So it'd be like 3 weeks. And I always felt like those teams played really poorly when they actually showed up in the playoffs.
Yeah, I mean, rust is a legitimate thing. I mean, if you don't go out and play the game speed for 3 weeks, I mean, can certainly be slow.
I had some people asking me if I thought that the Ravens were going to rest Lamar next week. I'm like, hell,
I don't see that happening.
That would be almost a month of rest for Lamar.
Yeah,
right.
no way.
I don't see that happening.
Especially with the Patriots winning yesterday, they've got to stay up.
Right, they don't, because they haven't locked up the 1 seed.
They have not.
So they still have a reason for Lamar to be playing.
Right.
So. Now the question is, depending on how the game script goes, he might not play the fourth quarter.
Well, that's the great thing about Lamar. He can go out and put 40 freaking points up before the end of the third quarter's even over, so it doesn't even matter.
We might see some more RG3, but I don't expect him to rest. So I got plenty to talk about. We will do the Week 15 big questions, and now with Championship Week coming, I've got a championship edition of Who'd You Rather with guys that have good matchups that maybe you might be on the fence about, but we'll kind of talk that out, and then just another look at some guys who potentially could be shut down because of injury or their team situations or what have you. I mean, guys legitimately that could be shut down, not just we're going to rest you to the playoffs. And then, of course, a quick look at the waiver wire for one more week as you try to win your championships.
It's a big name that I put into there.
I do. I see that. I see a couple big names.
Yeah, sir.
Before we do all that, though, go behind the glass, talk to our faithful producer, Senior Edward L. Murphy, Esquire. Murph, what's up?
The newest member of the Dallas Cowboys Nation.
Yeah, I'm stuck here. People will put up a couple pictures or a clip. I am wearing a Dallas Cowboys Ezekiel Elliott jersey because I lost my bet and I'm a man of my word. I got destroyed by Fabs in our game. I think I lost by like 40 points. So look, I wasn't going to back out of the bet. I believe Fabs would have worn a Giants jersey.
Oh, absolutely. I would have done it. It would have hurt.
So how long do you have to wear just for the show?
I want to wear for the show.
Just for the show, yeah. Okay, just for the show. And I do have Zeke on that roster, so I thought it was only fitting that you wear the Zeke jersey. And I had some guys going in that matchup there that really Galladay was awful. DJ Moore was terrible for about 3 quarters, and then all of a sudden it was
all in that last drive.
Yeah, I mean, boom! He ended up with a decent stat line, so I'll take it. Kyler was a disappointment for me. I should have played Carson Wentz, but you're a good man, Eddie.
Yeah,
you're a good man.
I'm a little upset because this was my one chance. I made the playoffs in another league of mine and lost first round. This league, I got to the second round and lost, so no championships this year for me. But you know what? Live and you learn, and I'll be better next year for it.
I got to tell you real quickly before we get into the news, the matchup that Graham and I had. So we were playing each other for the right to go to the championship in the NFL Fantasy Live League. Now, he had Lamar. So I thought I was dead. He had 37 before I had a guy step onto the gridiron.
Let's back up here, too. Number one in points scored, it went 7-6 because everyone went off against me. So
right.
my unlucky trip.
And I got to be honest with you, your team is the one that I didn't want to face. Because I was hoping that Cynthia would beat Colleen this way. I'd play Cynthia this week and I wouldn't have to face you because I know your team is just jacked. But so I'm down 37 and I've got Jameis going who gets me to 33, so that almost basically eliminates what Lamar did, which was huge. I had Aaron Jones, I had Devontae Adams, and I had DJ Moore in that league too, which was great. But I also have Philip Lindsay who tanked. I had Julian Edelman who tanked. Last minute, I took out Harrison Butker and put in Jason Myers who tanked. The Patriots defense did have 20. But my lead was not that significant going into the later games, right? So I'm thinking I'm still dead. Like, I mean, I don't know. Maybe I had like a 40, 50-point lead. I thought I was dead.
I had a lot of guys going yesterday.
Here's what Graham had in the late games. Devonta Freeman, Nick Chubb, Hunter Henry, Austin Hooper, Michael Gallup, and Robbie Gould. Robbie Gould, obviously, besides Nick Chubb, ended up being your high scorer. The Hooper touchdown would have put me down less than a point.
Getting
and then Hooper's touchdown being reversed put me back up by less than 6. And ultimately, I got maybe the luckiest win that I've ever had in fantasy football.
So getting 8.9 points out of Michael Gallup, Austin Hooper, and Hunter Henry was not fun.
Not great.
It was not fun.
No.
Julian Edelman killed a lot of
teams.
Oh, man.
And now I'm concerned about playing him next week because they've got Buffalo. And Brady does terribly against Buffalo historically.
Yeah, although, the way this season's gone, that means, Edelman will give you like 25 or something like that.
That'll be great.
That's just how this season goes.
Jeez Louise. So. Yep.
All right, hey, let's do some news.
Let's do the news.
Sort of light in the amount of news headlines, but heavy in the severity and seriousness of what these headlines are. Dalvin Cook left the game yesterday against the Chargers with a shoulder injury. Combine that with the fact that Alexander Mattison was inactive, and Mike Boone ended up having himself quite a day. So this is something to monitor, Fabs, all through the week to see what Dalvin's situation is going to be. Obviously, the Vikings still have quite a bit to play for. They are very much in the thick of the playoff race.
The fact that the Rams lost yesterday, that was big
that helps
for
a lot.
Minnesota. Right.
But, they need Dalvin Cook back. So this is something to kind of keep an eye on. But, if it doesn't happen, Mike Boone, I think, is going to be a popular waiver wire name.
Is Madison coming back?
That's the other question.
I have no idea.
That sort of surprised me.
So because he missed a lot of practice last week, so you're going to put in a claim for Boone. There's no question. He's probably going to be the most added player on NFL.com this week. But Madison should end up getting added too because I don't know. Right. I mean, if Madison comes back from the ankle, you would think he's going to be the guy if Cook can't play. But if Madison can't play, then clearly it's Boone.
So Madison didn't practice all of last week. He was ruled out on Friday, which to me that signifies a pretty significant injury. Mm-hmm. Maybe they're trying to keep him straight for their playoff stretch. I'm not entirely sure. We'll have to see how the situation plays out. But yeah, I mean, if it's not Madison, it'll be Mike Boone, who's, by the way, legit good. Like Mike Boone,
he's good.
Play.
He's just been, behind Dalvin Cook, which is no shame.
And Alex Madison can play a little bit too.
That's definitely a name to keep an eye on. The other one, which absolutely is huge,
Crusher.
Chris Godwin left the Bucs game on Sunday with a hamstring injury. He was carted off the field. And
he's not coming back.
Yeah, I mean, immediately
I don't think so.
Bruce Arians says it doesn't look good. They're already not expecting him to play Week 16. The Bucs aren't going anywhere, so why would they rush him back? It just doesn't make sense. Look, Brashad Perriman had himself a day yesterday with 3 touchdowns. But, I mean, Graham, look, we've seen Brashad Perriman before try to be in a lead role. I mean, obviously the Ravens thought he would be, their receiver of the future. That didn't work out. He's done okay as the Bucs' third receiver. This is a big challenge for him to step up, but the targets are there.
It will be. Here's the good news: the targets will be there, and they're playing Houston. Houston cannot cover anybody. It doesn't matter if it's Brashad Perriman operating as the number one. They're not going to be able to cover these Bucs receivers, and we can talk about this here in a moment. But I'm still pretty comfortable with Jameis next week.
Yeah, that was going to be my next question. Yeah,
is even with all their injuries, I think you can play Jameis because he does not care who his receivers are. He is going to throw yellow balls and stay aggressive.
That's just what Jameis does.
That's what he is. That's exactly who he is. He does not care if it's Mike Evans or Brashad Perriman and Justin Watson. He doesn't care.
Yeah, which actually is the other question. Because I know there was a lot of hype on Twitter about Justin Watson. There was some talk about Scotty Miller, who actually caught a touchdown yesterday. I think those guys sort of they obviously move up a couple of notches now too, with Godwin and Evans both out. If you had to pick one, are you going Miller? Are you going Watson?
I would stick with Miller. Agreed. He's had some nice games this year. I think we talked about this a little bit, Marcus. That and on the Friday show, Fabs, with Justin Watson, it felt really thin, and Brashad Perriman was clearly their number 3 all year long, and he had just an enormous game. Anybody that picked up Perriman and played him last week,
huge.
That was huge.
Man, tell you about it.
That or Kenyon freaking Drake. Who we got to talk about that, but boy, where the hell did that come from? My goodness gracious.
Man. There you go. That's pretty much everything you need to know.
That was the news.
All right, our big questions of the week. And, might as well add one in here because, we talked about Kenyon Drake, so we'll add that one to the list as well. But let's start with Jameis Winston, right? I mean, the guy has thrown for 450 yards in back-to-back weeks. As we sit here at this very moment, he is the QB5 in fantasy and really has a chance to set a single-season passing record if he can finish strong over the next couple of games. I think he needs like 900 yards, which, look, man, he's had 900 yards in his last 2, so, we'll see.
Mm-hmm.
Is he your fantasy playoff MVP right now?
Lamar Jackson did pretty good.
I guess it's Lamar's still there.
But the thing is that, like, if you look at Lamar's previous week, it wasn't huge. So 19. I know a lot of people who lost because Lamar didn't have that big Lamar game. So right now, as we stand, it's Winston, it's Lamar Jackson, and it's Ryan Tannehill.
Yeah.
If you're talking about quarterbacks, those are the 3 big ones, right?
Fitzmagic had a huge game yesterday.
He'd have a nice game.
Yeah, finishes the QB6. He's going to end up the year as their leading rusher.
That's going to be hilarious.
Insane. It's just insane. Myles Gaskin actually played pretty well yesterday. But, yeah, Jameis next week, I think, we broached it just a second ago, but I think you can go back to him against the Texans just because simply, very few quarterbacks have like a locked-in floor of 300 yards. Jameis just every single week is going to toss for 300 yards, either because he's throwing interceptions and giving the ball back to the opposing team and letting them keep the game close, or the Bucs just can't run the ball, which, they've been very inconsistent on the ground all year long.
You mentioned this, and I'm just, I think this is so funny that Ryan Fitzpatrick right now is the Dolphins' leading rusher, 219 yards. Mark Walton, who's no longer with the club, second at 201. And this feels like a question. Maybe I'll hit up NFL research. I wonder who is the person who has led their team in rushing with the fewest amount of yards, right? Because there's a very good chance that Fitzpatrick could have fewer than 300 rushing yards.
As Graham and I go to Pro Football Reference.
and by the way, Ryan Fitzpatrick only started what? He's not even started the full season.
No.
He's going to start 11 games for them?
He started 11 games so far. I just want to know what is the fewest number of rushing yards a player has had and led their team.
Yeah.
Do you guys trust him next week against the Bengals? And the only reason, and I know it's a revenge game. By the way, we should be ashamed of ourselves for not remembering the Ricky Seals-Jones, the freaking Tavon Austin, and the Rex Burkhead revenge games. On Friday, you and I...
we dropped the ball on that one.
But there was also, but yesterday was also a Mohamed Sanu revenge game, and that didn't really happen.
Yeah, that's true. But so now, overall, the Bengals are giving up like 19 points a game to quarterbacks. In their last 4 games, 11.2.
They sort of clamped down.
They have been tough against quarterbacks lately.
They have clamped down.
It looked bad for Brady yesterday just because maybe that offense isn't so good.
Yeah. I mean,
Brady's had one decent stat line in like a month and a half.
Yeah.
So
I'm not willing to say the Bengals defense is anything special, but they have played reasonably well on the outside.
Yeah.
As long as Devontae Parker's out there and he can chuck it up to his guy, we'll be fine.
Yep.
So here's the thing. Looking at Fitzpatrick for the last 6 or 8 weeks, it's he gives you 20 to 25, then he follows it up with 12 to 14, and that's sort of the thing. And so I feel like you could start him, but I think you run a very real risk of him giving you 14, 15 points, and then you're just going to be frustrated. So that's sort of where I sit with that one.
Most quarterback streamers, though.
That's true.
Most quarterback streamers, if you get 15 out of them, theoretically, if you're streaming quarterbacks by now, the rest of your team is just nails.
That's true.
So, if you get 15 to 20 out of Fitzpatrick, it's probably not going to kill you.
That's a good point. You mentioned Kenyon Drake. 4 touchdowns.
Out of nowhere. And I will tell you this. Of course, I listened to our pal Bob Harris, on his radio shows on SiriusXM, and we were talking about that. And he had talked to a Cardinals beat reporter that basically was like, David Johnson got into the end zone last week, and they have to kind of figure out what they have in him because they figure out what the situation is going to be in 2020. So I think a lot of people, including myself, were expecting to see a little bit more of David Johnson in this game.
Nope.
We didn't see anything.
Nope. 6 total yards.
Kenyon Drake. That's why I didn't like Drake this week. And the Browns had been tough against running backs relatively over the last month or so. And my goodness gracious.
I remember when David Johnson was a thing. I remember when David Johnson was good.
Has a dude ever fallen from grace quicker than David Johnson? Honestly.
There has to be.
Huh?
Peyton Hillis?
Well, no. I mean, that, yeah. But you know what, though? But here's the thing, though, Marcus. We all predicted that because he was on the cover of the Madden game, and he was coming off the magical season. David Johnson was a first-round pick who was actually putting up pretty good numbers until
he got hurt.
Until he wasn't. Right?
There is something more going on with David Johnson's injuries and his status with the team because it seems like right now he's reasonably healthy and he's just not playing.
Well, I think his status with the team is legitimately in question. Like, what do they do next year? Because I wouldn't be surprised if he is somewhere else.
I don't know what his contract situation is. Now, obviously, he got a nice extension a couple years ago, which is good for him. But at the same time, they will probably be looking elsewhere at the running back position in Arizona next year.
Here is an example of how almost impossible predicting the NFL and fantasy football can be. In Week 15, fantasy playoffs, your semifinals, you're looking to get to your championship. We had more faith in Boston Scott than David Johnson.
So
that's bananas.
So the contract situation, he still has 2 years left on his deal, and the Cardinals will take a pretty significant cap hit. I think it's $14 million next year, $12 the year after that.
Wow.
So they're in a really sticky situation.
You know what I would love to see? Oh, I would love it. David Johnson reunited. You know where I'm going? Bruce Arians, Tampa Bay.
Goes back to Tampa.
Giddy the hell up.
Huh.
Wow.
Giddy up.
Interesting.
Man.
Giddy up.
They're going to have to eat a lot of cash next year. I just pulled up his contract, too. They would have to eat a lot of money.
Yep.
That'll be interesting to see.
So
they can get out. They can get out with under his deal in 2021, but when he's 30,
yeah, they're sort of stuck on this one right now. Though that's going to be really interesting next off.
I'm calling it.
David Johnson. He's going to be 29, guys.
I know.
David Johnson's going to bust.
We've had
watch.
It feels like we've barely even had David Johnson.
I mean, we've only had one really huge David Johnson year.
He was amazing his rookie year too, and they just didn't,
they didn't
give him the ball,
right? Because they're using mostly like on kick returns and that sort of thing.
Yep.
So, all right, let's see. What do we make of Tyler Higbee for Week 16? First of all, and I know a lot of that depends on Gerald Everett's status, but Higbee's had 3 straight games over 100 yards. I mean, he's a huge part of what the Rams are doing right now. So what do we make of him for Week 16? And then beyond that, because, I mean, obviously he's showing that he can be very, very productive. I mean, do they work out a 2 tight end thing with he and Gerald Everett? Do they figure that out?
I have
one or the other.
I have a petition.
Okay.
Can we move the Week 17? Well, the Seahawks are going to go off against the Cardinals, but it's so unfortunate that Higbee's getting the Cardinals in Week 17.
Yeah, I know.
Right,
because he's going to go nuts.
Yeah, but
against the Niners, the targets have been there.
Dude,
everything's been there.
The Niners gave up 2 touchdowns in a quarter to Jared Cook a couple of weeks ago, so it's not an impenetrable defense.
We just mentioned Austin Hooper should have had a touchdown.
Jared Goff is back to being trash. Then he got hurt. He looked awful in the beginning of the game. Then he hurt his thumb. And he can't throw the ball deep. He hadn't been able to throw the ball deep all year. That's why he's basically statistically neutered Brandon Cooks in that offense. And in fantasy, Higbee's a must. Dude, he has 65.4 fantasy points in his last 3 games, man.
Crazy.
It's insane. He's got more points than every tight end in the league. And Zach Ertz has been great. And Travis Kelce lately has been pretty damn good, too. Better than all of them.
That's with 33 targets. 33 targets for a tight end in 3 games.
Balling.
That's a lot.
Just balling.
Yep.
Hey, by the way, it's David Johnson's birthday, so happy birthday, David Johnson.
Happy birthday, pal.
There you go. Has Joe Mixon salvaged his fantasy draft value? Because the first half of the season, he was awful. We were talking about dropping him.
It wasn't him that was awful. No, it was the play call.
I mean, it wasn't necessarily his fault, but the end result was he wasn't giving you anything.
Of course.
Mixon, for the last 7-8 weeks, he's been pretty good.
Mixon has been amazing the last 6-7 weeks.
I said it weeks ago. He was going to be a league winner, and he's going to be a league winner.
Yeah.
Because he got Miami next week. Right now, if you look at the last 5 games he's played, he is 7th in fantasy points among running backs. 7th.
So since their Week 9 bye, Mixon has now averaged well over 23 touches per game. The workhorse role is finally back. He's getting involved in their passing game more. He had a great game on the ground yesterday. The Patriots
against the Patriots too.
Well, the thing is, the Patriots are completely fine. Bill Belichick is completely fine giving up like 5 to 8 yard runs. He doesn't care about that. He just doesn't want to give up big passing plays. And that was never going to happen with Andy Dalton. So,
and if I remember correctly, Mixon averaged like over 5 yards a carry yesterday too.
Oh yeah, no, he.
So he was really good.
I mean, he's been fantastic the back half of the season. I know that early on in the year, people who spent probably a second-round pick on him were really frustrated.
That's what I was going to ask. Mixon has definitely been the Joe Mixon that we expected the last few weeks. Where do we take him next year? Because I think he'll probably sneak back into that late second round.
I think he's late second round. Yeah, I think he. We talk him back up to the late second round probably by the time it's all.
Bengals are going to be.
The talent's there, man.
The Bengals are going to be so interesting next year.
The offense is going to be.
I would say interesting is the word because I mean, look, Andy Dalton probably is not their starting quarterback. It's probably Joe Burrow.
Yeah.
We'll see what Tyler Boyd and what. Who's back at their wide receiver spot?
Maybe. Oh, you know what it is? AJ Green stayed with Cincinnati because he knows Joe Burrow's coming to town.
Oh, interesting.
You want to hear an interesting yet depressing fact? Joe Mixon was literally like unstartable for a lot of the first half of the season. He's basically even with Alvin Kamara in terms of fantasy points right now with Kamara going tonight.
Well, Kamara's going to go for 3 touchdowns.
He's basically
I'm willing this to happen. Kamara's going to have a multiple touchdown game tonight. I'm willing this to happen.
Man, it's been a while. It has been a while. That would be great to see. Last one of these. Is Josh Allen going to be one of the top 5 quarterbacks drafted in 2020?
No.
I mean, he's just outside the top 5 right now. And
I love it.
And had a pretty good game against a good Steelers defense. It ended up 16.
Points.
I take that back. But he moved the ball well. He threw the ball okay.
I like him a lot. I do.
And look, and you talk about guys who run. He runs.
Yes, I know.
Right? He scores touchdowns.
But top 5?
I mean, he's top 6.
Here's the thing. Here's the thing that concerns me about Josh Allen. He has been unstartable against good defenses. Pittsburgh, 16 points, not great. The week before, Baltimore, 10 points. He had that 6-week stretch where he was playing trash defenses. The Cowboys, he had a good game against the Broncos, and the Broncos defenses, and at Miami, at Cleveland, Washington, Philadelphia, Miami. Those were all really favorable opponents. So I love him. I call him the next Cam Newton. I think he can put up great totals when the matchup's right.
But you wouldn't draft him as the next Cam Newton then?
Yeah, I'm into
top 5 though.
I mean, Cam Newton was a top 5 draftable quarterback.
So let's go through this. Lamar is obviously QB1 next year.
Mahomes is going to go. Watson's going to go. Russell's going to go. What about Dak?
Yeah, Dak versus Josh Allen's tough. That's where it gets close.
I'm going Dak. I'm going Dak there.
Yeah. So I mean, I remember on the show mid-season. Bills had an early bye week 6, and then we were all looking at their schedule like week 7, 8, 9. I mean, he just went completely nuts. Dolphins, Eagles, Redskins, Browns.
The schedule
Dolphins.
was bananas good.
It was amazing, and that's where Allen scored most of his fantasy points this year. So I hear what you're saying about the matchups this year, but at the same time, he has such a high floor because of the rushing. I mean, he's their goal line back.
Well, then who you drafted next year, Kyler or Josh Allen? Because those guys are...
It depends on what receivers are in Arizona.
Super close in value.
It really depends on what they do at receiver next year. Because right now, Kyler's throwing to it's Christian Kirk is his number 1 receiver.
And he did, yesterday was...
I like Christian Kirk a lot. It's just...
It has not come together the way I would have hoped.
He's going to be a really good number 2, but he clearly, I don't think will be a number
Sometimes, wide receivers need that second year, and then in that third year is when they sort of break out.
Yeah. I don't know, man. I think... And I think some of it is going to be the receivers they have next year. Some of it will probably be the schedule if the schedule lines up and he's got another, kind of soft part in it. But I think it's going to be worth talking about just because.
Really?
I'll give you this.
He's the floor.
He's certainly top 8. I mean, without question. Maybe, yeah.
Oh, yeah. I mean, without doubt.
Without question, top 8.
The glutton of quarterbacks kind of from like the QB 6 to QB 13, 14 range. You could really make a case for all of those guys, know?
Yeah.
You know what's going to be really interesting? If Tannehill continues this, and the Titans franchise him, where does he go next year? He's going to probably be a late rounder, but this guy has been, I said to start him over Mahomes, and he had more points than Mahomes by a couple this week, and he's got New Orleans coming up. New Orleans' defense is not good on the road, and we're going to talk about Drew Brees here in a second. I got a stat that's going to scare the ever-living beep out of you if you're going to start Drew Brees this week.
I don't know, maybe because all these years of seeing Tannehill and just seeing him be like, eh.
But dude,
like no, he's been great this year. I mean, he's absolutely been great this year.
And think about another year with A.J. Brown, who looks like a man amongst boys. A.J. Brown looks like the next Andre Johnson.
He is so good.
Well, remember coming into last draft season, he was considered maybe the top wide receiver prospect. And then DK Metcalf took off his shirt and everybody went nuts.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
A.J. Brown is just a total freak, man. Just a total freak. And he is fine. I mean, it's nice that it's taken it this long, but at least we have a good Titans quarterback now, right? Like somebody that can actually command the offense and move this team because they can actually fall to their players.
I don't know if you watched the game yesterday either, Graham, but he would have had a bigger stat line. The tight end whose name I can't ever get right, Frisker, whatever the hell his name is.
Firksker.
Touchdown right in his damn hands. It pops out, and then Merciless takes it.
Yeah.
For almost a touchdown.
Right, almost scored with
that
it.
right there is a 6-point swing for Tannehill.
Well, in that last play, they were looking for him, too. When he had that check down to Dion Lewis, that ended up being the Titans' last offensive play. But he was looking for A.J. Brown on that last play, too, just didn't get it to him.
Yeah, A.J. Brown's he is what Corey Davis was hoping to be and never was.
Is Corey Davis the new Devontae Parker, or have we just given up on him?
I've not given up on Corey Davis.
This year. That's Devontae Parker, God bless him. Big contract, $40 million, and goes out and scores 2 touchdowns. I mean, now he's got the Bengals coming up. We'll see.
He was balling, right? Like I feel like Corey Davis now that Devontae Parker does things, I feel like Corey Davis has now slid in. He sits on that throne of like we're waiting.
Yeah.
Yep.
I think Corey Davis will be a really interesting third-year breakout candidate next year. Yeah. Or fourth year. That'll be his 4th year. Wow.
Wow. Yeah. Time is flying. All right. So I got a few who'd you rather for championship week, guys, with matchups that are really good, who, you might be sort of on the fence about, kind of middle of the road potentially, but you would really consider. So the first one, and I tried to actually get guys who were in the same game with one another, just because I feel like it's interesting. Doesn't mean anything. I just, it occupied my mind. Matt Ryan against the Jaguars or Gardner Minshew against the Falcons.
Ryan. Atlanta's defense is freaking driving me nuts because one week they're damn world beaters and the next week they're terrible.
I mean, they shut down the Niners pretty well yesterday.
I know. They've shut down Breeze twice and Garoppolo.
Without Desmond Trufant. How does Manuel Sanders catch one pass
I don't know. That's the other guy I had going against you, and I am done with him.
That feels like the Niners had a huge letdown after going on the road.
Yes, no, you're right. You're right.
They came back home, and they were just flat against a team that they should have beat. That's what that feels
I'd go Ryan here, though. I like Ryan this week. Jacksonville's defense is they're done.
Yeah, Matt Ryan, man.
So
he had a good game 2 weeks ago. Was solid last week.
19 this week. Yeah. Not too bad. So
yeah.
Yep.
I mean, does it mean anything though that they held Derek Carr to less than 16 points?
It's Derek Carr.
It's Derek Carr. It's Derek Carr.
It's Derek Carr, dude. Right. I mean, listen, Derek Carr's. I mean, whatever.
I mean, Josh Jacobs.
He's a great guy, but just not a good fantasy quarterback.
Josh Jacobs had a decent rushing game.
He was disappointed overall too because the Jaguars had been really giving it up to running backs, and Jacobs didn't have that big game.
No, but he also was dealing with that shoulder injury. I know he just really wanted to play. It's the last home game in Oakland. That didn't work out so well.
Yeah.
All right, next Ryan Tannehill against the Saints or Drew Brees.
It's Ryan Tannehill. It's not even close. You want to know why?
Yeah, I'm curious about this stat
I'm going to scare the hell out of both of you and everyone listening.
I'm not starting Drew Brees anywhere, so it's fine.
Okay. Since 2013, in weeks 14 to 16, in outdoor road games, Drew Brees is averaging 14 points per game in 6 starts. Since 2016, on the road, outdoors, okay, weeks 14 through 16, Drew Brees is averaging 8 points per game and scored fewer than 6 of 2 of 3 in those games. I hope my opponent starts Drew Brees this week. I really do.
Brees has always had those.
This is what he does.
Those big home road splits, but I mean, I'll say the Titans secondary is really bad right now.
At home, they are a tougher defense.
I get it. I get what you're saying. I would play Tannehill over Brees too.
Hell yeah.
I'm with you.
I play Ryan over Brees.
But man, that game could shoot out next week because the Titans won't have Adoree Jackson. Malcolm Butler's on IR. They're looking so thin at this in the second.
You know what though, bro? Deshaun Watson did not have a great game yesterday.
He did not.
He had 2 picks.
He threw a couple of picks.
I mean, I needed Watson to have a big game, and he didn't. He had 16.9.
Divisional road game late in the year. Weird stuff can happen.
I mean,
Deshaun Watson was fine for fantasy. He didn't kill you. 18, 19 fantasy.
No, he had 16.9. I mean, that's okay. Yeah. That's on the verge of being blah.
The Saints also still have a shot at a home game in the first round.
Yep.
Or a first round bye even, potentially.
Yep.
I think they need the Packers to lose somewhere in there, but they still have a chance at a bye. So I mean, they do have a reason to go and try and really move the ball, put up points. We'll see if that happens. But
we've seen this show before.
Yeah. Right. Running backs: Devontae Freeman against the Jaguars, Leonard Fournette against the Falcons.
Give me Fournette.
I would think so.
Yeah, I like Fournette a lot next week. It's so unfortunate. The Jags, obviously, they ended up winning that game, but for the first half, they did not move the ball.
They didn't do anything
at all, and they got behind. And this has kind of been the running theme with this team, especially over the last couple of weeks, is like when they get behind, they just have to completely abandon the run, and that's going to not only limit Fournette's opportunities in the rushing game, but it's going to decrease the efficiency because those runs become a lot more predictable.
Can we just get him some touchdowns?
Yeah,
please. He still has just 3 touchdowns.
Fournette has been saved by the fact that he is catching everything.
Yep.
Which, had been sort of the knock on him coming into the season, that he was not involved in the passing game, that he didn't catch the football.
Right.
Leonard Fournette is going to end up catching 80 balls this year.
He has 73 catches. He has the 3rd most catches by a running back in the league.
Yep. He doesn't come off the field.
It's Christian McCaffrey, no shock. Austin Eckler, not really a shock. And then Leonard Fournette. That's wild.
Yeah.
I mean,
Fournette is not going to – I don't think – this has just been like the perfect storm for him, and it's unfortunate because if he had scored like 8 or 9 touchdowns this year, he would have just gone bonkers.
He would – he would probably – well, he wouldn't actually be close to Christian McCaffrey because McCaffrey
he would be pushing Dalvin Cook, though, for
absolutely.
RB2.
No, absolutely.
Yeah, he would be pushing Dalvin Cook for RB2 because he's gotten unlucky in that front.
Man. All right, James White against the Bills, Devin Singletary against the Patriots. I feel like this is a James White thing here.
I'm still going James White, yeah.
Singletary.
He's getting a lot of touches.
He had a few nice runs. He fumbled. He fumbled twice, I think, and lost one of them, I believe. When they get inside the 10, though, it's back to Frank Gore. It's Josh Allen.
Yeah.
Yep. Josh Allen's their goal line back, Marcus. You've been on that, but yeah, James White. I think that game will set up perfectly for him because the Patriots' boundary outside receivers are not going to be able to beat Tre'Davious White and company, and then Julian will be locked up in the slot. So I'm on White too.
Yeah. Last one. Brashad Perriman.
This is a good one.
Brashad Perriman against the Texans or Will Fuller going the other way against the Bucs.
They're like the same type of player.
Which is why I put them in there, right? Because they're kind of the same guy, right?
Will Fuller's better, but they're the same type of player, just deep shot guys. Will Fuller against the Bucs, that's a really tough spot to not be on him. But really, outside of 2 games this year, one of the games was against the Colts where he just came back from injury and no one was starting him for the most part. He was coming back off a multiple-week injury. Outside of those 2 games, Fuller really hadn't done too much this year. So I'd lean maybe Perriman just because the targets will be there.
The target volume, right.
And the Texans could get a lead in that game, which could force Jameis to throw 45 times. And when Jameis has to throw 45 times, some receivers are going to go nuts.
Yeah, I think I like Perriman just because the target volume. Fuller is an absolute ceiling play because he's a guy who, he might only need 3 or 4 targets.
He was solid yesterday, 5 for 61.
Yeah,
that's fine.
But yeah, I did. I put this in here because I'm like, these guys are sort of the same, so I think it'd be interesting to kind of pit them against one another. All right, there you go. I'm sure we'll get deeper into this, and I know we'll talk about this on Friday as well on the pod. A look at some of the guys who could be shut down for the rest of the season. The first one is I'm just begging, just shut down AJ Green. Stop.
Marcus, he's still
even a thing now.
No, guys, he's still day to day. He's still day to day.
He's
still day to day. He's coming back.
He is.
That's killed me. Their practice designation every single week.
They tweeted out video of him jogging on their practice field last week. I'm just why?
I really do wonder. Maybe the Bengals have long played this the whole time. That AJ Green, they're just trying to get him right to get an actually good quarterback in there so he can, finish the rest of his career with the Bengals. Maybe they've slow played us on this. Maybe that's why he hasn't been traded.
Maybe.
Because it defies logic.
He will be a free agent officially in the offseason, which I think I saw somebody, suggesting, recommending that he goes to the Eagles, which could be really interesting.
Yeah.
AJ Green at Philadelphia, I think, would be
Patriots or Raiders.
So maybe, the Bengals also have kept Green on their active roster, so they're keeping paying him, obviously, and that also limits another player from being paid as well. So they've kind of like saved a little bit of money, I guess, by keeping Green on their active roster, so they don't have to pay somebody else. Maybe that's why. I don't know. Yeah. I'm really trying to spin my brain to try to figure out what the AJ Green situation has been all year, and I still can't do it.
Just end this already, Bengals. Like, what is the point of him coming back? It doesn't make any sense. Chris Godwin, I'd imagine, is going to get shut down at this point. He's likely not going to play Week 16.
1,300 yards in 14 games.
Fantastic, dude. That's an awesome season. Yeah. It just doesn't make sense to bring him back at this point.
Yeah.
I don't know about DJ Chark. I mean, he didn't play. They ruled him out, I think, fairly earlier in the week. I know he, was trying to test his injury, and it just wasn't going to happen.
It was a joke. The Jags were like, "Oh yeah, DJ Chark." The week after, he's in a walking boot and he's seen being carted around the locker room. Yeah, he's going to travel for a road game across the country to Oakland. Yeah,
right. Yeah. And I mean, what is at this point? All the Jaguars games are fairly meaningless. I just at some point I wonder if they're just going to kind of shut him down. He also has after a quick start to the season, he's been kind of up and down for long stretches of the year, and I would be I'm just curious whether or not the Jaguars try to force him back on the field. What's up with Evan Ingram? Do we know? Does anyone know?
I don't know, dude. Why bring him back at this point?
Exactly.
Right.
Right. Why bring him back at this point?
I think obviously his foot injury was more serious than it was originally let on, and the Giants haven't been playing for anything of meaning in a couple months. Mm-hmm. There's no reason to bring him back. Tight end. Just let him get right and get rested, because next year the Giants are loaded, guys. At receiver, they have Darius Slayton, who looks amazing as a rookie. Sterling Shepard, who's always been good. Golden Tate will be back. Evan Ingram will be back healthy. They're loaded at receiver.
Daniel Jones is going to be one of those late sleeper picks that everyone's going to be on.
That guy Saquon Barkley's pretty good too.
I've heard. I've heard.
Showed it yesterday.
They are so
finally
loaded.
People got a huge game from Saquon.
I'm going to be really interested in Daniel Jones as a late round guy next year.
Yeah. Yep.
I have Gerald Everett on this list, but it is merely like a question because I don't
let him rest.
I mean, Higbee's
done.
Playing well.
It's going crazy.
I mean, if you are the Rams, I don't know. Your playoff status took a big hit yesterday. First of all, losing to the Cowboys.
I don't know what the hell that was yesterday.
Yeah.
That's why, as a Cowboys fan, you either
Jason Garrett apparently gave the greatest pregame speech he's ever given in his life. That's the report.
I mean, like this is why, like, because we won. If we beat the Eagles this week and then go to the playoffs, I mean, does that mean Garrett's going to keep his job? Does he need to go to the NFC Championship? Like, I don't care what happens short of the Cowboys winning a Super Bowl. I don't want Garrett to be the coach next year. I'm done. But that was just I think that's why it's so frustrating, because like this team can be that good, but most of the time they've disappointed this season.
Is this Eagles Cowboys this week? It is Eagles Cowboys.
Yeah. Dude, it's in Philly too.
That'll settle the division.
So.
Real quick, back to the Rams. So they're 8-6. Then the Seahawks are pretty much locked into a playoff spot.
Seahawks are locked into a playoff spot. I think with the Rams losing, the Niners are locked into a playoff spot.
Yeah. So the only way really the Rams can get into the playoffs is if the Vikings lose out, right?
I think so.
The Rams are in big trouble now, and they've got the 49ers coming up.
They needed that win yesterday, and I think even then they still would have needed some help. So losing yesterday,
the Vikings can still win the division if they beat the Packers next week. They're still in the play for the division.
I think that's the Monday night game, right?
It is.
Yeah,
it is the Monday night game. Yeah. There will be some fantasy championships decided in that one.
By the way, you left a name off this list.
Who's that?
Odell Beckham. Dude. Here are his last 3 games.
One could argue that he's been shut down most of the season.
14.6, 5.9, 5.9. He had the big game against Miami. Then he had 10, 10, 13, 10. And he's got Baltimore this week. I mean, like, honestly, like, if you need to pick up, say, I don't know, Mike Boone this week.
Yeah.
Like, can you cut OBJ? Dude, I mean, it's against Arizona. I mean, 14 is okay, but I mean,
realistically,
and he's not 100% with the sports hernia deal.
Right. Realistically, like, yeah, I know, but just my lizard brain is like, I can't do it.
This is a microcosm of Odell Beckham's season. He gets 13 targets against the Cardinals. Mm-hmm. You would expect him to go just completely nuts.
He had
66 yards.
He had a season high in targets, a season high in receptions. He had a season low in yards per catch.
Just absurd. He had a terrible drop yesterday too.
Outside of the backfield, I mean, and nobody started Ricky Seals-Jones, but I mean Jarvis and Odell Beckham both.
Yeah, Jarvis tanked.
Jarvis
too. That was
finally
really disappointing.
That was bad,
man.
Yeah,
yes, realistically, all logic says that Odell Beckham is droppable, but just, man, I think the emotional part of me and knowing what he can be is just like, man, it's hard.
Yeah.
It is hard to make that move.
Yeah, they play the Ravens next week, though, and I mean, if you made it that long with OBJ in your lineup, you can't play him. You can't play him against the Ravens.
No, I mean, you keep him on the bench and maybe get him a ring.
That's about it.
That's it.
There you go.
Yep.
All right, quick look at the waiver wire before we shut it down for this week. Rashad Perriman, obviously at the top of the list for pretty much everybody. Anthony Miller, who had a huge game yesterday.
Dude, he's been great the last month.
Playing well recently.
Awesome.
Ryan Fitzpatrick, I guess, although we talked about, whether or not you have the stones to play him against the Bengals this week, but he is out there in case you're needing a quarterback for whatever reason. Some combination of Mike Boone and or Alexander Madison.
Mm-hmm.
That is depending. Obviously keep an eye on Dalvin Cook, see what his status is. Keep an eye on Madison and whether or not he's practicing this week. But one of those guys, Boone or Madison, should be on your roster just in case. Kerryon Johnson.
Yeah, I put him in there because there have been reports that he's going to come back this week.
He's got eligible.
Denver.
I still don't understand that.
The Lions have no running backs right now. Somebody named
Wes Hills.
Wes Hills had
which I think
a good stat.
Which I
he
think
had
is
more
a junior,
points than Melvin freaking Gordon.
I think it's a junior college in Coalinga, California. Wes Hills College.
How many points did Gordon put up yesterday?
He had like 6 or 7. He had 2 fumbles.
He had 2 fumbles.
Yeah,
even Wes Hills had like 20-something yards, but he had 2 touchdowns.
Yeah, 2 touchdowns. So, I mean, listen, if Kerryon Johnson's available, what the hell does it hurt to pick him up?
Yeah, I mean, look, he's eligible to come back and play. I know he says
they have
he wants
no
to
running
play.
backs right now.
I mean,
Scarborough's hurt. Why not?
Hurt, yeah.
Scarborough's hurt. Look, I get it from just a we need to fill the roster in a body standpoint, but if you're the Lions, why?
At the same time, he might get a featured role just because they don't have anybody.
They have nobody.
They have nobody else.
That's what I'm saying, man. Yeah. I mean, who knows? And then Sterling Shepard too, because he's only owned in like 40%, 47% of leagues. So
Anthony Miller, if Rashad Perriman's not out there, I think Miller's pretty easily my favorite pickup this week, especially PPR. He has been amazing.
Yeah, he has been.
6 or more receptions in 4 of his last 5 games, and now he gets the Chiefs, and their slot corner.
They are not good against the slot. They're good on the perimeter, not so great against the slot.
Yeah, that's a huge spot for Miller.
Yeah.
They should be trailing in that game. Kansas City's bad against slot receivers. It's another really good spot for him.
Nice spot.
Ooh, the new Top Gun trailer dropped today.
It's been 35 years, Maverick. What are you doing?
Tom Cruise doesn't age, though. That guy is still...
He does not.
Yeah, he doesn't age. You guys got your tickets for Star Wars yet?
Not yet. I'm still trying to figure out if I go Thursday night or if I go Friday.
I'm going Saturday night.
I'm going with the family when I'm back in Atlanta. Got a bunch of
cool
fam going, so we're gonna do that.
If I do that, I'll do a second showing. I think I want to do the first one kind of by myself. And
I thought about that too before I go. I think I might go over the weekend.
Yeah.
And if I do it, I'll see it again. I did rewatch Rogue One though. And forgot how good that movie was.
Rogue One was really good.
Eddie,
Rogue One was
Rogue
so
One
much better than
was
Solo.
So good. Oh yeah,
so much.
Solo was trash.
Any last words? Like, is your skin burning? Are you okay in there?
Luckily, I have long sleeves on underneath. Protect me from this ever touching my skin.
Oh, man. All right. That's it. We are done. We appreciate you downloading and listening. You know the drill as always. Tell 2 friends to tell 2 friends. Rate, review, and remember, if you win an award for laziness, are you allowed to pick it up yourself? We'll see you on Wednesday.